Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another week of zooming into the Parsha. PARSHAS Ki SAVO, a very major Parsha of the year, has so many different topics inside of it, and we're going to try to focus in on one of them. I'd just like to make the following offer once again, that as we try to go back to some life of normalcy after all of these months of being on Zoom, I'm not opposed to anyone that would like to join us in person and live over here in Shul and Makor Chaim to enter into the walls of the Beis Midrash, sit down in a seat. There's plenty of room that you can space around for social distancing. You can wear your mask and make yourself comfortable, and we can start learning together again live once again. In the meantime, we'll take advantage of the advent of Zoom, and we'll continue to communicate with each other the messages of the Torah, which really are not bound by time, space, computer screens, distance. The Torah is relevant and it transfers and it communicates in all places. There's a beautiful Maisa, beautiful story which took place years ago with Rabbi Dovid Horowitz Zatzal. It was Erev Rosh Hashanah, the eve of Rosh Hashanah, and he received a call from a Hasidic fellow that he was very close to, Rabbi Moshe. And Rabbi Moshe called Rabbi Victor Miller and he asked him for a bracha, and he told him that he was very nervous about the up-and-coming Yomei Adin, the days of judgment. Whatever the reason might have been that he was nervous about, but he wasn't so sure where he's going to find favor in the eyes of Hashem and be judged favorably for the up-and-coming year. So Rabbi Dovid Horowitz Zatzal gave him his standard bracha that he would always say over to a person as they were going into the new year. And he said, L'shana toiva tikaseva v'chasenu, may it be a good year where you are written and you are sealed. The Sifran shel tzadikim gemorim, in the book of the true tzadikim, the righteous, la'alter l'chaim toivim u'l'shalom, immediately for goodness and for peace. And then he said, after he gave over that traditional bracha, he said, and remember Reb Moshe, don't forget, it's Yom Tiv. Rosh Hashanah is also a Yom Tiv. And on Yom Tiv, you have to be happy. So walk around on Rosh Hashanah with a smile on your face. So the Chassid, Reb Moshe, responded to Rabbi Miller. He said, but it's Yom Adin. It's a day of judgment. It's so frightening and so scary. And Rabbi Miller answered him, he said, that's exactly why I want you to walk around with a smile on Rosh Hashanah. And I'll explain to you with the following story. There was once a very well-to-do businessman who owned all different types and branches of stores. And at the end of every year, he used to make an inventory. He used to take stock. And he used to examine the productivity and the success of all of his different stores. And if he would see that there was a certain store that was not doing as well as before, and he had to cut back just a little bit, it usually began where he would start cutting back on his employees. So he would cut back over here on the grocer, he would cut back over here on the bag boy, he would cut back over here on the salesman. And in each and every one of the stores, he would go through and he would see who was doing well, and who was making more money for the company. And as he would get to each and every store, he would evaluate the workers and would cut back on the ones that he felt weren't towing the line. Except for one. So imagine you have a worker that's over there. He's not the biggest salesman in the world. He's not the brightest and most adept. You know, sometimes you go to Home Depot and you wonder if there's just some nails and screws that are inside of those heads over there. You ask the person, that's your job. Your life is Home Depot. You should know where every screw and every nut and every bolt is in that store. And you ask a person, Anyway, imagine you have a fellow like that. And he doesn't pull the line, as they would say, in his job. He's not the greatest salesman. He's not off the charts. He's not making the profits seemingly rise every single year. But you have a fellow who's over there, and he's a happy-go-lucky person. And he smiles, and he's in cheer, and he makes everybody that comes into that store jolly and happy. When a person walks into the store and they're met with a smile, and they're greeted with a kind word, they're greeted with a joke perhaps that makes them laugh and puts a smile on their face, what happens? Someone is in a good mood. He's going to buy more product. Someone is in a good mood. I could use that also. So he might not be the best salesman in the world, but he's a happy fellow. He's a jolly fellow. He makes everybody else in a good mood. That's the kind of person that the boss of this company, the owner of this company, is going to make sure that he leaves them there for another year, because in his own special way, he helps to bring about all of the profits and the sales in that store. So Rabbi Dovid Horowitz said to this person, Ramesha, you should know that Hashem has a business, and his business is a world of chesed. And all that he wants is that everyone will recognize all of the chesed, all of the goodness, all of the blessing, all the abundance that he's bringing down to this world for each and for every one of us. So if you have someone in this world whose demeanor makes other people happier, and it makes them more attuned to all the kindness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings down to this world, that means that this person is an asset to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's business. And even if he's not the biggest tzaddik in the world, and even if he didn't do the most mitzvahs as everybody else did this year, and even if he made some mistakes, which everybody does, but he makes the world a happier, jollier type of a place, where everybody is able to see the kindness and the goodness all around them of what Hashem does. That's exactly the kind of person that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm leaving you in this world for another year. I cannot run the world without you. So Rabbi Dovid Miller said to this man, Reb Moshe, he says, if you advertise with your face, that smile that's on your face, that Hashem made a beautiful, happy world, then you stand a much better chance of being accepted on the Yom Adin, the day of judgment, for another year. Tzaddikim, the righteous, they can live in fear on that day. Hashem is going to be particular on all of their deeds. But for the average fellows like ourselves, we have to walk around and show Hashem we're a happy person, and we make other people happy as well. And in that way, we will be judged favorably, and Hashem says, you're going to be here for another year because you helped me run my business so beautifully. A year that you have so much to be happy about. We rejoice, we have mitzvahs, we have Torah, we have a connection with the Ribbono Shel Olam. We have our special, unique nation, Am Yisrael, the Jewish people. We have so much that we could dance and sing and be happy about. It's a crime if a Jew is not a happy person. And yet, Pukhazi, take a look around. Take a look around the world, take a look around our shuls, take a look around our families, take a look around the Jewish people. We simply do not see enough smiles on our faces. We don't see the kid waking up in the morning so excited to go to school with joy. We don't see the man walk into shul, ready to put on his tefillin like a little bar mitzvah boy, so excited and ecstatic. We don't see the women standing in the kitchen, making the challah, cooking the food, sweeping up after themselves with a big smile, whistle while you work. The dwarfs did a better job than we do. We don't see the simcha, we don't see the joy. And the question is, why are we not seeing enough happiness by Klal Yisrael? A person has a treasure, a person has a gift, a person just inherited millions of dollars, they're not smiling. We have more than billions of dollars with infinite money of spiritual bliss to each and every one of us. So we should be going out of our kalim, as they say in Yiddish. We should be going out of our minds with joy. And yet we know that we're not. The drudge, same old day, the doldrums of our daily routine. Wake up in the morning, the alarm goes off, wash your hands, modani, go to the shul, daven a little bit, run off to work, say a bracha, eat your breakfast, daven mincha, daven maariv, watch a class on Zoom. We know how it works. Why is it so dull to be a Jew? The parsha this week has one of the most profound verses that we could possibly imagine. It gives a criticism of the Jewish people that if the Torah itself would not say these words, we certainly would not be able to say them ourselves because we would never believe such a thing to be true. But if HaKadosh Baruch Hu in His infinite wisdom and His omniscient glance from the beginning of time until the end of time, if His internal understanding of the very nature and the fabric of our nation of Klal Yisrael, which is so keen and so pure and so clear, that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us in this week's Parsha the lacing criticism of the Jewish people, so that it's something for us to take with us in all generations. This is the week of the Teichacha, of the admonition, of the admonishment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the Klal Yisrael, warning with foreboding news that if we don't serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu properly, and we don't do His mitzvahs in the right way, we run around with Him happenstance, v'chule, and so on and so forth, and we don't show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we understand what it means to be Am Yisrael, the nation of Klal Yisrael. So then comes the litany of curses, suffering and destruction and hardships that are going to come to Klal Yisrael. And it is too much for us to even speak about. When you come to shul on this week, we notice that the Baal Korah, the one who's reading from the Sefer Torah, number one, no one gets called up for this aliyah, for this aliyah in the shul. Why? Because it's so frightening what is said over there. Nobody wants to take the aliyah for themselves. So the Baal Korah, the one who is laning, the one who's reading from the Torah, he doesn't even get called up. He just says the bracha for the aliyah. And then when he reads this particular aliyah with all of the curses that are there, these horrible ideas of the tragedies that will befall Klal Yisrael, he reads it very softly and very quickly so that we shouldn't lose our minds in fear and anxiety as we're sitting there in the shul, listening to all these things that Hashem says are going to befall us if we don't behave ourselves. But one of the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu writes, and he says, is the following. Ubo alecha kol haklalos haeleh. All of these curses are going to befall you. Uratfucha v'sigucha, they will chase after you, and they will catch up with you. Ad hishamdach, until you are destroyed. Ki lo shamata b'kol Hashem Elokecha, because you didn't listen to the voice of Hashem your God, lishmoa mitzvosav, to guard His mitzvos v'chukaisav, and His laws, asher tzivach, that He commanded to you. Number one, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you didn't listen to the words of Hashem. You didn't hear the commandments the way that He wants us to keep them. And therefore, all of these klalos, all of these curses, they're going to chase after you, and they will eventually catch up with you. And the fact that the curses will reach you because you did not pay heed to the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it will be an ois, it will be a sign. Umayfis, and a wonder. Vizaracha ad ha'olam, amongst your generations for all time. The fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so intimately connected to Klal Yisrael, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Himself warns us, and He pre-warns us again, and He tells us what's the reason why the curses will befall, and Klal Yisrael doesn't pay heed to the call of the Ribbono Shel Olam, then all of the curses that we're talking about over here, they're going to befall the Jewish people, and it's going to be horrible for us. That itself will be a sign and a wonder for the next generations, that yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes good on His promises. HaKadosh Baruch Hu upholds His words. The relationship, the symbiotic relationship between Klal Yisrael and the Ribbono Shel Olam is so real, and it's so alive, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu made promises and warnings in his Torah, this is how it's going to be, take a look in history and you'll see, in fact, that's exactly what happened. And that will be a sign and a wonder for Klal Yisrael to understand that everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said in his Torah, it's all true and it will come true, whether we like it or not. But then he writes the surprising statement. What is the reason why all of these troubles have befallen us? What is the reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to make a mockery out of our nation and follow through with the warnings and the threats that he placed upon us? What is the reason that we don't heed the voice and listen to the Rebbeinu Shalom and guard his mitzvahs and keep them properly? What is the reason? If you had a person come to you and say, listen, if you stand on your head for 20 minutes, I will give you $5 million. You would stand on your head for 25 minutes and you would get $3 million. You don't care. That kind of money, you'll do whatever you have to do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has come to Klal Yisrael and he says, I'm giving you a Torah, I'm giving you mitzvahs, just keep it. Embrace it, love it, cherish it, live the Torah. And you will receive the greatest rewards you could imagine. You're going to get bliss in the world to come. You're going to get prosperity in this world. You're going to have nachas for your children. You're going to have a peaceful life of shalom bayis, of marital harmony. You'll be happy. You'll be healthy. You'll be upbeat. You'll have things go your way. You'll have HaKadosh Baruch Hu on your side cheering on for you. That's not a reason in and of itself to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to keep his mitzvahs, to do his will. But it's worse, says the Torah, because if you don't listen to what Hashem says, and you don't embrace the Torah, and you don't live his mitzvahs, and you don't do things the way that Hashem is asking, what's going to happen? Litany of curses are going to come your way. And Hashem says, and I will show it to you in that generation that doesn't live the life that I expect of them. That's what's going to happen. So on one hand, you're offered eternal reward. On the other hand, you are offered suffering that no other nation in the history of the world ever went through in this planet. So why wouldn't we keep the mitzvahs then? Why wouldn't we embrace what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us? Why wouldn't we say how good it is to be a Jew, and a Jew keeps mitzvahs and he davens and he learns and he does chesed and he gives tzedakah and all of the other 613 mitzvahs that are there? Of course I would. Says the Torah, let me explain something very important to you. Tachas asher lo avadeto es Hashem Elokecha b'simcha. Tachas, in place of, instead of, and because of, that you did not serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha, with joy, with happiness, u'betuv levav, and with a good, gladdened heart, may roiv kol, from all of the good that you have. Says the Torah, a fascinating thing. It doesn't mean that you didn't serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It doesn't mean that you didn't keep his mitzvahs. It doesn't mean that you weren't davening every day and putting on your tefillin and doing chesed and giving tzedakah. You did it all, my friends. Everything you're supposed to do. But you did not do it b'simcha. You did not do it with joy. You weren't happy. You weren't reveling in the beauty and the glory of that which HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. You didn't have a smile on your face when you were standing in shul and you were davening Shmona Esrei. You didn't open the door kindly to the poor man who schlepped across the world because he has a large family and he doesn't have any money and his children are starving, and he came to you, you wealthy Jew in America, because they think that all Jews are wealthy in America. He came to you, you wealthy Jew in America, and he's asking for a donation. And you stand behind the door and you say, sorry, I'm not here right now. Or you let him into the house and he annoyed you and he bothered you and you couldn't smile when you were writing the check and giving it to him. The Gemara says that you cannot imagine or fathom the exponential reward that a person is going to receive when they give tzedakah with a smile and a kind word rather than just writing the check and sticking it in the guy's hand. Says the Torah, you did keep mitzvahs. You did learn Torah. You did say that you feared me and you honored me and you believed in me. You did all of that. However, loi avadata as Hashem Elokecha b'simcha b'tuv levav, but when you were serving me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it wasn't with happiness and joy and a good heart. And for that, unfortunately, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have missed the boat of what Yiddishkeit is all about. You have been given the greatest treasure of all times. You have been shown the secrets of the universe. You have been offered an eternal bond with the Ribbono Shel Olam that no other person in this world has besides the special world between you and Hashem. You have been given the opportunity 3 times a day. Open the siddur, open your heart and your mouth, talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and He listens to you. You've been granted money so that you have the opportunity to supply someone who is in need with a check that is going to make their day a better day. You've been given Yom Tiv. You've been given kashrus. Yes, I know kosher food costs more money, says Hashem. I know it very well. But I gave you a mitzvah to eat kosher food because you're special, you're unique, you have a neshama tahara, a pure soul that requires pure food as well. And you did everything not b'simcha, not with joy. And because that you didn't appreciate what the mitzvahs are, and you allowed yourself to fall into the trap of the monotony of the same daily routine over and over and over again, and you allowed the pressures of the world to enter into your brain trying to convince you that it's nothing so special to be part of our nation, and that there's plenty of food in the stores that you can't have, and there's plenty of places in the world that you cannot go, and on Shabbos there's plenty of things that you can't do. So you begin to think, it's not such a joy to be a Jew. It's rather oppressive. It's avoida. It's like avdus. It's like slavery over here. And because of that, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you lost the whole purpose of why it is that I brought you down to this world, which is to serve the Ribbono Shel Olam b'simcha. Like we say, David HaMelech writes in Tehillim, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy. Boyu lefana me'anana, and then you will come before HaKadosh Baruch Hu in exaltation. You'll be so excited and rejoicing you can't hold yourself back. Says Rav Hirsch on this pasuk in Tehillim, he says that it's regrettable that avodas Hashem, what we call divine service of our Master, is understood to be something that is consisting of rituals, of prayer, of sacrifice in the temple and in the shuls. And that's what it is. Is that all that our avodas Hashem is? Just boring rituals which have no meaning, which have no purpose? Chas v'chalila. Rather, real avodas Hashem, the true service of God, is when a person is living his every single day life, from the time he wakes up in the morning till he goes to sleep at night, and every little detail of his day in between. And he finds opportunities in his conversation, in his actions, in his eating, in his walking, in his talking, in his davening, in his learning, in his marriage, and with his children, with his friends, in his office. He keeps laws so carefully in his office of all the laws of the Torah, He finds everything in his life as part and parcel of the service of Hashem. And therefore my whole day is infused with Avodas Hashem. Not just when I'm standing in shul. Not just when it's Rosh Hashanah and I'm standing there and I'm singing the words along with the Chazan, trying to muster up and conjure up in my mind the image that Hashem is the Melech, Hashem is the King. It's not just on Sukkot when we will sit inside the Sukkah, or Hanukkah when we light the menorah. It's not just when I dutifully give my tzedakah, my 10% that I have to give from every single paycheck. Ivdu es Hashem, when you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you recognize that every aspect and facet of your life can be involved in the service of Hashem, then automatically, says Rav Hirsch, B'simcha, you will rejoice. When you know that you have the greatest opportunity and schus and merit in this world to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu constantly, how could a person not be happy? How's it possible? You go to the big game, just driving in the car, your adrenaline is flowing and pumping through your veins already. You get into the stadium and your team is playing and you hear the music and the bands with the drums and you see the people selling the popcorn and the peanuts and the sodas and the drinks and everything. And you hear the music and you see on the video screen, there's your favorite player. You are so pumped up. Every moment of a Jew's life, you're walking the biggest game in the world. And you've got the greatest team. It's made of all the tzaddikim from previous generations and the righteous of this generation and all of Klal Yisrael are rooting for you. And there on the screen is HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling you, my dear child, how lucky and fortunate you are. You have mitzvahs the rest of the world doesn't have. You have Torah the rest of the world doesn't have. You have Amunah the rest of the world doesn't have. Come and rejoice. Ivdu es Hashem. Serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Serve Him. Not in servitude, not in slavery, not in bank-breaking labor, but serve Him b'simcha. You'll do it with joy. Because there's nothing greater in the entire world. The Chavetz Chaim brings down in the Mishnah Berurah the following. They once asked the Arizal, the great and the holy Arizal, he was the greatest Kabbalist since the beginning of time, since the days of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. And he was on very lofty, high levels. He was able to see things and to know things that other people in this world did not know. He was unlocking the mysteries of Kabbalah, of mysticism, and the universe. And he was able to speak to neshamas. He was able to go all over Eretz Yisrael and bring out the kedusha, the holiness that was there. They once asked the saintly Arizal, how were you zeicha? How did you merit to achieve such high levels of avodas Hashem, such high levels of knowledge, of wisdom, of Torah, such mystical powers that you have? How were you zeicha? How did you merit such high heights? And the Arizal said, there's only one thing I can think that brought me to the place where I am. And that is because I did every single mitzvah opportunity that I had in front of me. I did it b'simcha. I did it with joy. A mitzvah that is done with happiness is a different mitzvah altogether, because it shows that you appreciate and you value and you are honored that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has chosen little old me down here in this world. Little old me in Tarzana, California. 2020 in the world, the generation of meshugas and craziness. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has allowed me to open my eyes in the morning, to thank Him for restoring my neshama, for bringing me to shul, for putting on my tefillin, my talis, opening a siddur and praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for sitting at home and saying Tehillim, the words of David HaMelech, connecting to the previous generations, so that we should also have an intimate relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He has given me opportunities every single day of my life to do chesed with another person, to be kind, to be warm, to be loving, to be giving, to be compassionate, to elevate my midos, my character traits, to become noble in visage as the way that people would see me. To be a chaynein la'adam das, to have my mind filled with the wisdom that HaKadosh Baruch Hu bestows upon me. When a person, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, they serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy, that means that they are showing to the Ribono Shel Olam, I appreciate what you've given me. I'm beginning to understand what a gift it is. I'm beginning to see how glorious it is to be part of Am Yisrael, our nation. And in reality, it says in this week's Parsha as well, the pasuk says, Hayoim hazeh, on this day, Hashem Elokecha mitzavech l'aseh zachukim ha'ile. Hashem has commanded you to do all of these mitzvahs, v'samishpatim, the laws, u'shmarta v'asisa, you should guard it and you should do it. Oisam b'chol levavecha, with all your heart, b'chol nafshech, with all of your soul. And Rashi, quoting the Midrash, says over here, what does it mean? Hayoim hazeh, on this day, Hashem has commanded you to do mitzvahs. Remember, this is taking place the final days of the life of Moshe Rabbeinu. We are at the end of our 40-year sojourn in the wilderness. We stood by Har Sinai 40 years ago. We received the Torah 40 years ago, and in the Torah, of course, it came along with all the mitzvahs, all the mishpatim, all the chukim, that we are obligated to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chol levavecha, b'chol nafshecha, with all of our heart and all of our soul. So how is it possible that on one of the last days in the life of Moshe Rabbeinu says, today is the day that you are commanded to keep all the mitzvahs? We were commanded 40 years ago to keep all the mitzvahs. So why is today the day that we were commanded? Says Rashi, b'chol yoyim, every single day. The mitzvahs and the Torah should be chadashim, should be brand new, fresh and new. Ke'ilu boi bayom nitzavisa aleim, as if on that very day you were commanded to keep the mitzvahs and the Torah. Says Rashi, let me give you a little bit of a hint over here of exactly how it is that you are going to make the mitzvahs come alive. How you're going to appreciate and value what it is that you have. One of the greatest struggles that a person has in the life of mitzvahs is, I'm doing the same mitzvahs every single day. Every day. Same Shemona Esrei, same brachos, same chesed, same tzedakah, same Shabbos, same Yom Tov, every day, the same thing, again and again and again. Same Chumash we read every single year. Gemara, we're doing Daf Yomi. So we're doing the same Daf Yomi that they've been learning for already 13 cycles. And if you learned Daf Yomi before, it's the same page again. And if you go to Yeshiva, we learn Chazorah, review it again and again and again, the same page. How many times does it have to do it? Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know what the issue is? You think it's boring. You think it's old-fashioned. You think you're tired and it's stale. Says the Midrash, if you would only learn how to look at Torah as if today you were commanded, and it's fresh, and it's new, and it's exciting, and inspiring, and it's an experience that you never had before, that every single day will be the day that you are commanded to do the mitzvahs as if it's the first time, and that will fill you with the enthusiasm to run into the world of Torah and of mitzvahs like you never have before. You want to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha, you want to do it with joy, You want to do it with happiness. You want to do it with enthusiasm. You got to appreciate what you have. When we look at everything as being old and stale, it's hard to appreciate it. I once heard a shir from Rav Asher Zelig Rubinstein Zatzal, and he was saying over, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't like stale mitzvahs. He doesn't like when your davening looks the same that it did the day before, and we don't want to talk about what it looked like yesterday. He doesn't like it when your learning is the same learning that it was yesterday or the day before, 25 years ago. He wants new, and he says, imagine you walk into the bakery and you smell all of the fresh bread and the rugelach and the danishes and the cakes that are there, those big blueberry muffins sitting in the front case. Oh, it smells so good. It's fresh, it's soft, it's hot, it's moist. You can't wait to get it. And then you glance over, and there it is, day-old shelf. And you walk over and say, oh, day-old, look at that, half off. There's a reason why it's half off. You feel that bread, feels a little bit hard. You feel that brownie or that Danish that is there, it feels a little bit brittle. And then you go in there and it doesn't smell so good. What's the matter with that? It's called stale. Why would you eat stale bread if you have fresh, luscious bread, warm, piping hot out of the oven in front of you? Why would you eat a blueberry muffin that is 3 days old and dried out already when you can get one hot off the press? Said Rav Asher Zelig Rubinstein, you should know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at us in the same exact way. How are we going to appear before Hashem? Like a stale cookie? Or like a fresh loaf of bread that's hot and piping? We're going to look like an old muffin that's dried out and brittle? Or we're going to look like that muffin that is so soft and so moist and so tasty that a person just can't hold themselves back? And therefore, the secret of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha with joy is when you will recognize the value every single day. It's a new opportunity. They're fresh mitzvahs. It's as if you never experienced it before. Like the Nefesh HaChaim writes, when it comes to our davening, to our tefillas, a person should view every single Shemona Esrei. This is the first and the last Shemona Esrei that will ever be like this in the history of the world. There never was a person before me who davened like this. I never prayed at this hour, at this moment, at this time. And I never ever will again. Which means that in the history of the world, this prayer was never ever said. That's not an old Shemona Esrei. That's not an old prayer. That's not stagnant, stale, out-of-date prayers. No, it is brand new, it is fresh, it is unique, it's all yours. And therefore, if a person wants to Ivdu Hashem b'simcha l'sirba HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy, and come with exaltation, come and bask in His glory before Him, we have to learn how to appreciate the opportunities and the gifts of the mitzvahs that we have in front of us, brand new, every day, all the time. And then we won't have this terrible curse. The curse of, because that you didn't serve me with happiness. It doesn't say you didn't serve me. You did serve me. You did show up at shul. You did spend the extra money on the kosher chicken. You did buy a lulav and an esrog, $120, and you walked in and said, am I crazy? Did I just spend $120 on a palm branch and a citron? Or did you walk out of that store and say, wow, look how beautiful this esrog is. Have you ever seen an esrog so yellow, so shiny? Look at the shape, look at the contour. Did you ever see a lulav branch so long and so green and so straight? Have you ever seen that before? When you came to the Shabbos table after a long week, We know the story that we've told over before. There was once a classroom of young kindergarten children, and the teacher made a mock Shabbos table. And she told all the boys, okay, you're going to pretend to be your tatis, your fathers. And she told the girls, you're going to pretend to be your mommies. Let's see what your Shabbos table looks like. And so the first little boy and girl get up, and the little girl's wearing a tichel, covering her hair. And they gave the little boy a black hat. And he walks in and he stands by the Shabbos table. And he stands there and he looks at his wife and he collapses into the chair and he says, "Oh boy, am I tired, what a hard week." Or do you come to the Shabbos table enthusiastic, revved up? You went through the parsha a little bit, you have some good questions and discussion to talk about with the kids. You have an interesting story or an interesting fact, something to engage the family. The only Shabbos ever that will be like this is this Shabbos. There never was a Shabbos like this before. There never ever will be a Shabbos. It's new, it's fresh. Ki yom hayoim, like it's a new one in your eyes. When a person does that, he rejoices. He sings, he dances, he walks around with a smile. His children see, whoa, look how happy my father is. Look how happy my mother is. My mother has heard the same Kiddush for 25 years and she's still smiling. My father ate the same challah 25 years and he still makes the same smiley face and he compliments my mother in such a beautiful way. After all these years, he knows what the challah is going to taste like. Wow, look at my mother when she lights those candles Friday night. Look how she davens. I see her every single week. Look at her. She must really believe in what she's doing. That is amazing. We have to turn ourselves on with Yiddishkeit. We have to make it alive and make it real. Something that is palpable to ourselves so that we're not walking around like day-old or 3-day-old or 25-year-old bread that's so stale and so dry, we're just burned out. Chas v'shalom. We have to think of the bakery and the fresh bread. Everybody, we should make a class trip. We should all go to the bakery on Friday and just walk in. Smell all that good food, how good it is. Go look at all the different cookies and the cakes and the danishes out there in the glass display. Walk over to the bread and just start squeezing the loaves of bread to see how soft they are. And when they ask you, can I help you? Say, no, I want to see how fresh everything is right now. Just go and see. And no, that's how we're supposed to be. Even fresher, even more delicious, even tastier in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Pasuk says in Mishlei, the Pasuk says the following. It says, Simcha latzadik asais mishpat. That a righteous person rejoices, he is happy when he does mishpat, when there is justice in his life. However, those who get involved with sinful behavior will come about their destruction. Says the Rabbi Dovid, what is this simcha, what is this joy that we are referring to over here of the tzaddikim, of the righteous, when there is mishpat, when there is justice? Says the Rabbi Dovid, Hine choiva aleinu la'avodas Hashem yizbarach b'simcha. We have an obligation upon us to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy. Kasher kosev, like it says in the Torah. I cannot make this up, folks. I found this Rabbi Dovid today, and listen what he writes. Tachas asher lo yavadas Hashem Elokecha, because you did not serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha, with happiness and with joy. V'nemar, it says in Tehillim, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy. V'yatzadik yismach, a righteous person will rejoice. Kasher zulasoi oivdim es Hashem yizbarach. He will rejoice not only for himself, but even when he sees other people are rejoicing and are serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu properly. U'marchikim even va'osim mishpat, and they remove themselves from sin, and they do things justly, and they do it right. Ki midas hatzak, and he goes on fine, he goes on, umidas hasimcha, he's over aleiv, when a person is happy, listen to the benefits. It awakens and arouses your heart. V'ispashet es haruach, and it spreads out to your entire being and your essence and your spirit, al mitzay chetzay, till you will accomplish what you want to. V'yoysem min agilu ma'amasais, and it's the highest level of joy that you could imagine. What are the benefits of happiness? Number one, we have an obligation to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's part of the obligation. And that's what the Torah is telling us over here, says Rabbi Dovid, that if you keep mitzvahs, but you don't do them with joy, you did not fulfill the obligation of mitzvahs. How could you have billions of dollars in your hand and not be smiling? Don't worry about Uncle Sam over here in the world of mitzvahs. He's not going to take it all away with taxes. A person that has billions of dollars in their hand and they know that they're never going to lose it and they can use it for whatever they want, they are going out of their minds with joy. Obligated, says Rabbi Dovid, to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha, when you realize the treasure that you have. And then, when you are b'simcha, when you have joy inside your heart, it is misoirer, it awakens you. And it spreads out to your whole spirit, your whole ruach. And you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu in ways that you never imagined. Like the Arizal said, why was he zeicher? Did he merit to have such high levels? Because he did everything with joy. He showed that he understood, he appreciated the value of a mitzvah. And he did it with a smile on his face and the song in his heart. And this, says the Torah, is the secret of the Jewish people. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us. If you want to avoid the rebuke, you want to avoid the klalos, the curses, we want that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to send us bracha and goodness and peace and health. We want that there will be a Shana Tovim, a Sukkah, good, and a sweet new year that is filled with Chayim, Tovim, good life. Says Hashem, be from the happy people of Klal Yisrael. Because when you smile and you radiate joy, people know Torah is good. Torah is beautiful. Mitzvahs are incredible. They're not a burden on a person. On the other hand, it's the greatest thing that a person can occupy their times with. And that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when people will see you, a beautiful ma'aseh that I heard years and years and years ago. There's an organization in Eretz Yisrael called Arachim. And Arachim is the premier outreach program in Israel for all the Israelis. And they go around to non-religious neighborhoods, they knock on doors, we'll learn with you, we'll teach you. They make seminars, they make Shabbatons, and over the years, they've been Mekarv, they've brought thousands, tens of thousands of secular Israelis back to their belief and their practice in Yiddishkeit and Torah and mitzvahs. So very often by these seminars and Shabbatons, they ask one of their success stories to stand up and tell the story, how did they get to where they are? What inspired them to learn more about their Yiddishkeit, their Judaism, and become a frum Jew? So at one of these seminars, a fellow got up, and he said, I'll tell you, it's very simple. He said, I live in Tel Aviv, or he used to live in Tel Aviv, and every single morning he had to go to the Tachana Markazit, the central bus station, and he went very early in the morning to catch his bus to work. And there's already early in the morning lines and lines of people going onto their buses, and there's lines going this way, there's lines going that way, and we would pass each other every single morning. And every person walked in the morning with a long, tired, disinterested face on, except one person. There was one religious Jew that I would pass him every single morning. And every time that I would pass him, he would look at me, He would smile and he would say, Shalom, have a good day. And I began asking myself, what does this person have that I don't have? What does this person have that nobody else in this whole entire bus station has? Everybody else is walking around with these long, tired faces. Everybody else looks grumpy, like they woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And this man is smiling all the time. Why is he so happy? Could it be because he's religious? Could it be that when he wakes up in the morning, he's marching to a different drummer? Could it be that his life is more fulfilling and meaningful? Could it be? And it got me questioning. And I began searching. And then I found a seminar with Arachim. And the rest is history. I realized that's why the man was smiling, because he has the secrets of life right over here. So when a person is a cheery person, and they are a smiley person, they're a kind person, they're a nice person, other people will see us and they will say, that's what it means to be a Jew. That was what it means to be religious. That's what it means to be so particular in the way that you talk and you walk and you eat and you live your life. Wow. What an amazing life this person has. I want a piece of that. And then you become an emissary. And you become a valued employee in the store, in the business of Hashem. Because Hashem says, if through you, other people will see what a magnificent world I have. And even more than that, we're saying the magnificent world of Torah and of mitzvahs that I present and I give to you, then you are the kind of person that I'm going to leave in this world for another year to keep doing the great job that you're doing. And maybe you'll even be smilier and happier and more enthusiastic, and you'll serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with more joy. And you'll be a shining example of what it means to be a Jew, who is appreciative of the beautiful life that they have in Yiddishkeit. And they impart that and they share that with the people they come in contact with. And then they're able to bring them in to become themselves great Oivdei Hashem, the servants of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. One of my all-time favorite stories of simcha, of happiness, and of smiles is a story that happened with me and my son. I tried before the bar mitzvah of each and every one of my children to take them to Eretz Yisrael. And we go on a week-long whirlwind tour. When we go, we try to meet the great Gedolei Yisrael, the great leaders of our generation. They should impart their blessings and their words of wisdom on the child before his bar mitzvah, that he should know the great path of Yiddishkeit that he has ahead of him. And when I was there about 7 years ago with my oldest son, so one of the Gedolim, one of the great leaders that we wanted to see was a Rav, a Rosh Yeshiva by the name of Rav Yitzchak Shiner. Now, why I wanted to go to him so much is because Rav Yitzchak Shiner is originally an American boy. Born and bred in Pittsburgh. He grew up in a traditional Shomer Shabbos type of house without great learning in yeshiva. And eventually he was enamored by a certain Jew that came to his house who convinced his parents, let him come back with me to go to yeshiva. And they sent their son off to yeshiva, and it changed his life. And he went on to become one of the most distinguished and prestigious sages of our times. He married into one of the most prominent Jewish families, the granddaughter of one of the greatest leaders of pre-war, Rav Baruch Ber Leibowitz. And he has a yeshiva called Kamenetz, which is in the yeshiva that's from Baruch Ber. And he, American-born boy, Pittsburgh, went on to stardom in the world of Torah. And I wanted my son to meet him. But he's also very happy, warm, down to earth, normal. Gadol B'Yisrael, great person. And I wanted my son to meet him. We had a connection to get to him. We got to Eretz Yisrael, and I made my call to that connection. And they said, okay, we're going to call. And they called, and Rav Yitzchak Shiner was not feeling well that week. And he said he wasn't taking any guests. So this connection of ours said, look, I'll try calling, and if I get through and I see that you're able to be with him, so then we'll try. Fine. It's like getting to our last day in Eretz Yisrael, and we have yet to go and see Rav Yitzchak Shiner. He's not taking people. I called the connection one more time, and I said, listen, Rav Moshe, I said, is it possible you think that we can go and see him? So look, I'll try again. I just don't know. They told me the whole week that he's sick. So my son and I in a taxi cab, we're heading back to our dear, to the apartment where we're staying. And we just gave up. We're not going to see Yitzchak Shiner. And as the taxi's heading off to Harnof, we get a call. He's going to take us. Come back quick. So we turn the taxi around. We go back into the Me'esharim, Geula area. And we go with our friend over here and his child. And we go to the house, the little tiny apartment of Rav Yitzchak Shiner. We knock on the door. And one of his grandchildren or great-grandchildren answers. And they said, Ken? He said, yes, we're here to see the Rosh Hashiva. He says, you are? We said, yeah. He says, the Rosh Hashiva is sick. He's not taking anybody. So he said, well, we were just told that we should come right now. We're here from America. He's just going to give us a bracha. Okay, let me go ask. He goes and he asked his grandfather, and his grandfather said, okay, you can come in, but you can come in just for a moment. He's not well. Come in for a moment, and he'll give you a bracha. He'll wish you a mazel tov, and then you'll leave. Okay? We walk through his living room, which is about the size of a box. And we walk into his bedroom, which is the size of a smaller box. And there is Rav Yitzchak Shiner in his pajamas, lying in bed, surrounded by a few of his grandchildren or great-grandchildren, pile of svarim, of books, stacked up high. And he's sitting there lying in bed. He's very, very sick, of course. They can't see people, right? Sitting and learning and steiging in Torah. Now, he was weak. I'm not making fun of him. I'm just telling you, this is what the Gedolim do when they're sick. They learn. You walk in. Imagine you're in your bedroom, in your pajamas, under your covers, and you're not feeling well, and four strangers walk into the room because they came from our way because they want your blessing. Just imagine the scene over here. And Rav Yitzchak Shiner welcomes us with the warmest smile on his face. And he looks at my son, you're the bar mitzvah boy, yes. And he starts giving my son brachas that he's a bar mitzvah boy, beautiful, beautiful blessings that he bestows upon him. And we were told we're going to go in, he's going to give a blessing, wish a mazel tov, and we're going to walk out. But I saw that Rav Shiner wasn't like pushing us out of the room. And he actually invited us to just come in and take a seat. And he begins talking more and more. And I realized this is a golden opportunity that we have over here. We're dealing with one of the great people of our generation. He has been a builder of Torah all of these years. He's an American, so we can speak the language. He understands where we're coming from. So I said, Rosh Hashiva, can I ask a question? He said, sure, why not? So I said, I live in Los Angeles. We have a kehillah, we have a community out there, and we are trying our best to do kiruv, to bring back the hearts and the souls of the Yidden, of the Jews, to Hashem. I said, could you give me a piece of advice? Can you tell me what should I do when I go back so I can show people how beautiful Yiddishkeit is? So he looks at us, and you have to know his smile. He has such a beautiful smile. He looks at us and he says, when you go back to America, he says, I think that if you just smile at every Jew that you'll see, they'll say to themselves, what is this guy smiling about so much? What does he have that I don't have? Let me go find out. What's the secret of that joy that's on his face? And then he proceeded to tell us that Rav Yisrael Salanter, the great Baal Musar, the father of the Musar movement, Rav Yisrael Salanter had a shir, a class that he would give to his students on how to smile. Because he felt that smiling was so important and it was so valuable, that's the way that you got into the hearts of your fellow Jew. He sat there and he showed them different smiles. You want to welcome a person? You smile like this. You want to make them feel good? You smile like this. He had all different faces, and he taught each and every one of his Talmidim how to do it. So Rav Shaina said that another Jew has to see that we are happy, and we rejoice, and we have pleasure over the life of Torah mitzvahs that we have. When they see that, then they're curious, and they will come and they will ask, and you will teach them, and you'll be mekarv them to Torah. Fascinating answer. As all this is going on, my son, who was not yet 13, he is pulling on my arm, and he says, "Tati, I want a picture with Rav Shainer." So I look at my son, I said, he's in his pajamas. I'm not going to ask the Rosh Hashiva for a picture. And my son is shoving the camera into my hand. He says, "Tati, I want a picture." And I said, "Stop, I'm not going to ask him for a picture. He's in his pajamas." So Shiner sees what's going on. He says to my son, "Do you want something? Do you need something?" So my son got a little shy for a moment. And Rav Shiner looks at me and says, "Does your boy want something?" I said, "Rav Shiva, I'm embarrassed to ask, but my son would really like to have a picture together with the Rosh Hashiva." And Rav Shiner's face lights up with a smile. He says, "Of course I'll have a picture with with me, of course." So Shiner says, one moment he props himself up in the bed, and he tells my son, "No, come closer." And my son standing, he didn't want to get too close. He didn't know he was too close. And Rav Shainer says to him, "Don't worry, I don't bite. You can come closer." And he stands right up against the Rosh Hashiva, who's lying propped up in his bed in his pajamas with a big smile on his face. And they smile and they radiate, and we take the picture. Now my son is done. And the other person I'm with, Rav Moshe and his child, they're there. They say, "Oh, can we get a picture of Rosh Hashiva as well?" And he says, "Of course, come." So Moshe comes over and he sits down on the bed with the Rosh Hashiva, and he's got his little daughter in his lap, and I take a picture of them as well. And now we're just standing there getting ready to leave. And Rav Shainer says to my son, "You're not nice." And he says to Rav Moshe, "You're not nice." And he says to my son, "You got a picture with me." And he says to Moshe, "You got a picture with me." So, "But your Tati's taking the picture." He didn't get a picture with me. Someone take the camera, let your Tati get a picture with me also. And sure enough, I give over the camera to my son, and I go and I sit down next to the Rosh Hashiva over there, and the two of us smile together. You don't want to be a better Jew when you're around such people like that. You don't want to have more Torah in your life, more mitzvahs in your life, when you're around people with midas, with character traits, with warmth, with love, with patience like that. And I was struck by the following idea. Here we are asking the Rosh Hashiva, what could you do to be mekarv, to bring another Jew close? How could you show another Jew how beautiful Yiddishkeit is? And he says, just smile at them. And then the entire story with him is the beautiful smile that he has on his face, how he was mekarv of us, he brought us closer. So as we go through the parsha this week and we see those insightful words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tachas, Kasher lo avadet Hashem Elokecha b'simcha, you did serve Hashem, but it wasn't with joy. And if you don't do it with joy, that means you don't appreciate and value what it is that you have. Then all of the troubles, Rahman al-Itzlan lo aleinu, they begin to befall the Jewish people. But if we serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy, and it opens up the well springs in our heart, like Rabbi Yonah says, or like the Arizal points out that all of his great levels was because he served Hashem with joy. Then when HaKadosh Baruch Hu will look down on us on the Rosh Hashanah, and he sees that with all of the trepidation, as we know that the new year is being decided, but he sees us rejoicing in the opportunities that we have, smiling at others, keeping the mood in the house light and pleasant. Maybe even making a joke or two that is with taste to make sure that everyone's enjoying themselves on this Yom Tiv. Hashem says, you are the person that I'm keeping around for another year, because you are good for my business. You are good for Klal Yisrael. You are good for the blessings and the goodness and the abundance of the hatava, of all of the bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bring to this world. Your smile, your simcha, your joy helps me to bring it all down to Klal Yisrael for the up and coming year. May we be zeicha to smile, to rejoice, to appreciate what it is that we have in lives, to understand the glory and the beauty of our Torah and of our mitzvahs. And in that zechus, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at us and He's judging us on the previous year, and He's planning for the year ahead, may He paskin, may He decide for each and every one of us and our families and our loved ones and our communities and Klal Yisrael, that a nation who appreciates the mitzvahs, a nation who appreciates Hashem, a nation who appreciates the opportunities that we have in front of us, that will have a year of simcha, a year of joy, and a year where the smiles will never leave our faces. Shana Tova u'Masuka, a good and a sweet year to each and to every one of you. All the best.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.